Practices began this week. It was the first day of Michigan State practice yesterday, and that means that Tom Izzo took the opportunity to take a break from following Josiah Jervis everywhere he goes to meet with the media and speak on early impressions of his team. If you read through the quotes or watch the full presser of what Tom Izzo has to say, he played the hits here as he always does. We should expect nothing less from the legend that is Tom Izzo at this stage of his career. Coming in, says he likes his team, says he's very impressed with Jeremy Fears, says this team has four captains: Fears, Cohen Carr, Jackson Kohler, Carson Cooper, the four vets. Said there's not much separation from his best player to his 10th best player, but that's kind of been the formula here, if you haven't been able to tell, and it's worked pretty well for us in the past. So a lot of good things. Michigan State fans should be excited about many of the things he said. But there's one clip that I think made the rounds the most on the internet yesterday, and it's this. This was the quote. He was talking about his freshmen, Jordan Scott and Cam Ward. Tom Izzo compared Jordan Scott to former Michigan State one and done Max Christie, and then called Cam Ward, quote, the strongest, toughest freshman I've had in a while, end quote. He likes both his freshmen. One, kind of like Max Christie. Two, toughest, strongest freshman I've had in a while. Cam Ward, for what it's worth, if you listen to the full press conference, Cam Ward ended up also being mentioned as a guy who's really pushing Jackson Kohler, which was interesting to me because in my head, Cam Ward should be lining up more with Cohen Carr. I would think those guys are kind of battling it out on the wing at the three. And instead, if Cam Ward is battling Jackson Kohler in practice daily, to me, that's just a little bit of a different situation positionally than I would have expected. Now, Cam Ward can play the four, but to me, he's more of like an alpha scoring jumbo small forward wing than he is like a post-oriented power forward, learn from Jackson Kohler, go to war in practice type. So interesting stuff. We'll end up having to wait and see how Cam Ward is used. Certainly Jordan Scott as a shooter, the Christie archetype at least makes sense there. Depending on how you feel about the caliber of it, that's a different conversation. But I'll throw it to you here. Any thoughts on his praise for his two freshmen?
I think, I mean, as you mentioned, the Jordan Scott praise is kind of like you can kind of see it in the comparison to Christie. Um, Obviously, like Christie wasn't the greatest at Michigan State. I mean, you let Cart talk about it. He was like one of the worst players in the history of the program. Um, but he really worked out in the NBA as like a 3-and-D guy. And if Jordan Scott can be that mold for Michigan State, I think that's the perfect role for him. The Cam Ward, Jackson Kohler stuff. I don't hate it. I feel like a lot of these coaches are moving away from like kind of like the traditional four. Like you kind of see Paint doing it with TKR, where it's like this worked with TKR, but I need a little bit more shooting. I don't want to put Jackson Kohler in the same realm as TKR necessarily, but I think Izzo's kind of like, I can't go straight with this archetype anymore because how many guys am I going to get as good as Jackson Kohler? So I need a little bit more shooting at the four spot just for the what the new traditional basketball standpoint is. And I think that's a lot of where he's going with it, or at least like if I was looking at it from a Michigan State fan perspective, glass half full, that would be the avenue I would take, where it's like we need more shooting on the court, but we can also mix in some of the stuff Jackson Kohler does too.
Yeah, that's fair. I probably shouldn't be like, I don't know, honing in so focused on the Kohler Ward mention because ultimately, like we know this vetty Michigan State group is going to start Cohen Carr, Jackson Kohler, Carson Cooper, right? Barring a shock, that's the plan. Now, we also know that starting doesn't really mean all that much in a Tom Izzo system. Just look at last year, right? Just because you are the first name on the court doesn't mean you're going to play 35 minutes necessarily. You might have sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th guys that match their starters in minutes or ultimately exceed them role wise. And I think Izzo alluding to the fact that his top guy isn't necessarily that far ahead of his 10th guy speaks to his intentions with that. I think he's going to want to try and replicate what last year's team did in terms of depth and rotation. Cam Ward's a very good basketball player. I feel like we probably haven't talked about him enough this summer or as much as we should this summer because he's got an opportunity with Caleb Glenn out for the year for Michigan State that I don't know would have been there. I mean, Caleb Glenn also a big wing in between the three and the four, but more of a shooter, right? But physically ready for the Big Ten. Caleb Glenn goes down. Now all those depth minutes are up for grabs, and it might be Scott playing some, it might be Cam Ward playing some, it might be both. One thing I firmly believe in though, Cam Ward's a dog. Dion, how's your job going?
Beginning of the school year, everything's like a little up and down. One of the biggest issues we've had is we can't find any uniforms for our girls' sports teams.
Mm, that's a difficult thing to find a solution for. I know damn well all about that because I got a daughter that just turned 2. She's into sports and she's already outgrowing every little piece of sports apparel she had. Thankfully, I know Clara Kate Creations. Clara Kate Creations was started by a former high school teacher who quit because it wasn't cost effective to send new twins and a 2-year-old to daycare. She found it easier to make girls' sports apparel than finding it to buy. And I am so thankful that she exists because if we have an old shirt of Murph's that she's outgrown, we can send it in and she takes that piece of apparel that means something and upcycles it into an outfit that Murphy can now wear as she grows up. She makes great stuff. It's honestly kind of like your fullback's wife, Kyle Juszczyk. Is that how you say it? She does that, but honestly, I think Clara Kate's coming for Mrs. Juszczyk's job.
I love that. I'm a big Juice guy, love his wife, love Claire Kate even more than both of them, though.
You can send in your own custom ideas and she will come up with a design. She's just the best. Look up Clara Kate Creations on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and more. Like Cam Ward is the Spartan dog for life, Michigan State, our kind of guy prototype. He's tough as hell. So when Tom Izzo says he's the strongest, toughest freshman I've had in a while, yeah, I think I buy that. And it sounds a little crazy because, strongest, toughest doesn't mean best. You just had Jace Richardson a year ago. In his own way, he was tough as hell. Believe me. Go back a few years earlier, I think there's been tough freshmen. Like I think Cohen Carr showed up to Michigan State and was pretty tough physically, pretty strong right away. Now, this might also say something about the state of Michigan State's recruiting in the last 5, 6 years. And go back to Max Christie, even. Max Christie was not tough or strong. He was skilled. But, in this little run for Michigan State, some of the toughest players, like a Tyson Walker, have been transfers. Um, or Jace ultimately was really skilled and got there. There haven't been the quote unquote tough killers that we kind of grew up with in the 2010s since Max Christie was here. So I think this quote at surface level is very real. I buy that Cam Ward is going to show up more ready from a physicality and a mentality standpoint than most Michigan State freshmen have in the last 5, 6 years. What that means for his role, I don't know. But I will say this: Graham Couch did a write up that was basically like 3 takeaways from Izzo's opening press conference. And the way Graham spoke to it was basically just like, it's different with Cam Ward. You can see it on Izzo's face. Like he lights up when he talks about this kid. And I won't be surprised if Cam Ward's a top 5 player on this team this year.
I think that not only does like that speak to Cam Ward and his ability this year, if Izzo is lighting up about you, like physically, and you can visibly see it. I mean, this is a kid that's probably going to stick around too, right? Like that's what makes the Michigan State program so special in comparison. Obviously, Trey Holloman left and Book left, but for the most part, once you get there, you stick around too. And if Izzo feels this way about him, he's going to stick around and probably be a problem on this team for years to come.
Yeah, I think I might have identified my new bit though, because again, Michigan State fans in the Discord are telling me the plan is for Cohen Carr to leave after this season. To which I replied, "Is the plan for Jeremy Fears to leave after this season too? Like, where do we draw the line on the guys that want to be NBA players next year versus the guys that are just content to sit and enjoy Fieldhouse?" I you're gonna laugh at this. Anyone should laugh at this, but this is real. I actually got breakfast this weekend with the guy who sold Cam Ward his vehicle for this year. This is a real story. This is absolutely true. And the way the story was told to me was that this is his dealer, the car guy, saying this. But in part of the conversation, he was trying to talk Cam Ward into like, listen, man, trust me, I get it. You got some NIL money. You're killing it. This is great. Uh, you don't need like the Bentley right now because let's be real, if this goes well, like you're in the NBA a year from now. And if you really want a car in the East Lansing area again a year from now, you can call me and we'll be in a totally different price range. And apparently Cam Moore was like, okay, cool, cool. I'll take the Bentley. So maybe you're right. Maybe he's planning on having a Bentley for 4 years in East Lansing. I don't know. But just a little behind the scenes reporting there.
How much money did four-star Cam Ward get to where he's just getting Bentleys?
uh, to be clear, Bentley is a metaphor. I don't know that he got a Bentley. The story was like, hey, you don't need the most expensive car in the lot here. Let's just get you something that drives. And a year from now, when you're in the NBA, if all goes well, call me. And Cam
God,
Ward was like, no, I'll take the most expensive car in the lot.
I love that. You know what? I'm in on Cam Ward. I'm in on
Right.
Cam.
Right. Because to be clear, that's the tough guy move. The toughest, strongest killer freshman that we've had gets the most expensive car on the lot. The Max Christies of the world are like, yeah, I'll take the Ford.
I'm in on Cam Ward. Him and Cohen Carr are gonna light it up this year.
I would love to see Cam Ward and Cohen Carr play together with Jeremy Fears and Carson Cooper at the same time. I think that would be an awesome, awesome lineup to watch for me personally. Yeah.